Well, good evening, everybody.
Glad to be here, Mike.
Glad we are. For everybody who was on the show last week and watched the town hall, I have one question for you. Did you miss me? Because I hope you did, and I was upset to not be on the show, but I'm happy to be back tonight. You know, it's interesting watching those videos up front, and we try to cover a lot of information as we spread the word. And I get so tired of the political pundits, the same damn pundits who took the polls to begin with, who told me and Orrin, there ain't no way you'll even get this recall done. You'll never get to 1 million signatures. And there ain't no way now, because we got our statistics, that you're going to recall the governor. And if I didn't know the press was watching, because I know you do, I would give you the New York salute. And I give you the New York salute now. It is going to get done. And in that video up front, we give you more and more reasons why it's going to get done. Let me compress some information that we have to continue to pound out there, why we need to recall Gavin Newsom. Some real important reasons. Yes, the king is releasing his subjects to go out again amongst the public, but do you find—
You mean prisoners? You mean prisoners?
Well, he's releasing the prisoners too, but I was considered a prisoner, and so were you, Orrin, for a few months under COVID, don't you think?
For damn near a year. And by the way, Mike, last week was like dry toast. It was like a stew without spice without having you on, my friend. I'm so glad to have you back, and so are everybody else, because you are the spice in the stew, my friend.
Well, I've always been known as a little spicy, Orrin, but that's a story for another day. Before we flip to Orrin, I want to set the table a little bit tonight in honor of our French Laundry show. Behested payments, we cover that in that segment that Tim, thank you for putting together to begin with. Again, understand what's going on here in California right before your very eyes. And I'm going to explain why we have our special guest tonight. It has to do with this. Gavin Newsom goes out once he hits his legal regular campaign limits and requests very large companies to donate to the charities of his choice where his friends serve on the board. Again, for those of you who haven't been paying attention, Jerry Brown, remember him, the guy that makes Newsom look like Ronald Reagan, got only $19 million of these payments in 8 years. Gavin last year took in $226 million of these payments doled out to his favorite charities. Yet
that sounds an awful lot like a playbook right out of the Clinton handbook.
It does, doesn't it, Orrin?
Right,
and don't you love
right out
the
of
mind?
the
Nothing to see here. Okay. And can I ask you, Orrin, where the hell is the other side of our government? The attorney generals, I know the legislature, even for the Democratic legislature, even asking questions about this.
There is no other side of our government. We are the last check in the balance system. The people are the last check to bring government back to be accountable and representative of what? The people. So you're right, Mike, and God bless. I mean, this is, we're in a trying time right now, and we need to take action, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, and also, isn't it amazing, too, that he takes our tax money, be it federal or state, and runs a lottery to bribe us to get vaccinated? You got words for that, Orrin?
He's not the only governor or the first governor to do that. He took a playbook or a page out of I think it was the Ohio playbook back east somewhere. But other governors have tried this. But there are laws, I believe, that prevent him from doing exactly what he's doing here. But that doesn't matter to this governor, because he circumvents the laws and he circumvents the judiciary and the legislatures, and he just acts off of executive authority. And that's why he has pushed this pandemic and his emergency protections act, as far as he can.
Yeah. And, One of the things I do know in the California Constitution, because Kylie or somebody looked it up for me, not that I was bright enough to find it, but I believe it's section like 1806 states very specifically that the legislature or state government has no authorization to do a lottery. And that's in the California Constitution. And you would think that his governor would have at least run this by the legislature before just declaring a lottery. I know other states have done it, but the reality is in California, our state constitution specifically says you can't do that. Yet no one questions Gavin. I also want to say in the videos too, what was a bit touching to me at the end is I talk a lot to Angela Marston. And for those of you, and we're going to have her back on both our radio show and our town hall again. Angela is the one at the Pineapple Grill who did the video where, you know, the studios, and I want you to start linking stuff together before we talk about our special guest and I give Oren a chance to speak. Angela did the video where the studios across the parking lot, when she was told to shut down, opened up tents, allowing the studio employees to dine, saying, oh, that's all right. You can shut down the small business. But the studios who make our entertainment are essential. Now, although there's nothing to see here, I would like you to note two things. One, as we noted in the video, Netflix gave $3 million to the Fight the Recall campaign. $3 million. Also, I believe it was Paramount this week, another studio, gave the Fight the Recall $300,000. Isn't it suspicious that these studios were allowed to stay open? That as Gavin kept us at home, hoping we watch more Netflix, I'm just saying, that Reed Hastings gives $3 million to Gavin. It just looks bad, and we should question it. We, the people, have a right to get these questions answered, and we, the people, are doing something continuously about it. Oren, talk about the flags we have coming in.
Well, I've got other things to talk about as well, but we have, you know, a couple thousand flags that we ordered. They're coming in. We're going to be distributing those out, you know, throughout the state to our stakeholders up and down California, from the Oregon border to the international border, as you call it, and doing what we can to help spread the word. But, you know, what I want to talk about is the naysayers that you alluded to earlier. And, you know, we've had naysayers on both sides of the aisle from day one. The California Beauty Federation, the Professional Beauty Federation, who they have 600,000 members up and down the state, in the salons and the skincare and hair care industry and things like that. They refused to endorse this recall early on. Not they, their leadership did. Their mob boss union leadership, just like the School Teachers Association, just like the parent, you know, teachers associations, just like the labor unions and the SEIU, the majority of them, there is a split in the labor unions and the SEIU. And I just want to shout out to Mr. Larry Brown, because he has the balls to break ranks and switch gears and stand up for something that he believes in. And that's exactly what we're doing with this recall. You know, we can agree to disagree on a lot of things, but where we come together is the fact that this governor is not friendly to the workers. I just had received a call earlier today from a news agency up here in Sacramento, and they wanted my reaction to the fact that a labor union with 2 million members had chosen to endorse Gavin Newsom and not support this recall, and that they were pledging to use their resources and go out and canvass neighborhoods. Great. I told them that's fine. These labor union mob bosses have to protect their investment. They are heavily invested in this governor, and he is a puppet and they hold the strings. They have control over every movement he takes. And as far as having 2 million people in California going out and circulating or canvassing neighborhoods and spreading the word about the recall, I think that's a good thing.
I think you just muted yourself.
I did. We have a new puppy in our house, and the puppy is making background noise that I didn't want to be distracting. So anyway, Bailey, the recall dog, has a new playmate, and she's growing up and growing obnoxious every day of the week. So fact is, back to what we were saying, is that the labor union mob bosses back this governor with their pocketbook and their gestures, but they are empty gestures. He has the support of their bank accounts and their leadership, but we have support of their membership, folks. Just like I told the California Beauty Federation, Professional Beauty Federation, whatever the heck their acronym is, just like I told their leadership when I was asking for their support and endorsement, it doesn't matter if you endorse us or not. That's fine. Take your stand, make your move. We have the endorsement and the support from your members. And that's where the power is. The power is with the people. And that's what we need to remember, folks. This is a movement of the people, by the people, and for the people. And it doesn't matter a hill of beans what the union mob bosses do with their money or their empty gestures. It matters what we do with our next move. And the people are the last check in the balance system in bringing government back to its foundation, where it's accountable and representative of the people they serve. And with that, I'm going to end my monologue right now, but thank you for a few minutes, Mike.
And at the end of this, after we introduce and let our guests speak, we're going to talk about some of the things and tools that we brought in, like flags, like rifles, to spread the word. We've said from the beginning, let the people make the choice. And I feel very, very confident the people are going to make the choice to legally, for the press that watch this, overthrow our California government and bring some balance to that. And tonight, for those of you watching, I want you to note the date on the calendar. It's the 2nd of June, 2021, because the next gentleman I'm bringing on is going to announce something very, very special that's going to be really official, except for the couple thousand people watching this tonight, coming up soon. This is a man who's been a friend of the recall since the beginning and has fought very hard, both in a previous congressional race and alongside us to help fight for the rights of Californians. For those of you out there, understand this. This is more than a one-trick movement. This is more than just removing Gavin from office. We have to bring balance to the state. With that, I'm very excited to introduce our guest tonight, Eric Early. Eric, the floor, well, the screen is yours, not the floor.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Orrin. Thanks for having me. Nice talking to everybody tonight. As Orrin and Mike know, I'm going to start this by making a special announcement. So I'll start with that. We're making this announcement officially on June 8th. We have a press conference set, but the announcement is that I'm going to be running for Attorney General of the state of California. And it is an incredibly important job, and I'm ready to do this job. Many of you know I ran against Adam Schiff for Congress in the last election cycle. And let's just say I don't have an ounce of respect for him, but it was an incredible campaign. Unfortunately, he's still in the U.S. Congress, degrading our country on a daily basis. But my first ever political race, I'm not a politician. I run a great law firm of about 25 lawyers. We're a nationally recognized law firm and managing partner. We do great business litigation cases, real estate litigation, a lot of constitutional stuff. In fact, I'm representing One American News Network right now. They're friends of mine, they're clients of mine in threatened lawsuits that they're getting from Dominion and Smartmatic. So it's a great law firm, and I have a great family. So, between my wife and I, we have 4 dogs, 4 kids, 3 dogs, and a cat. That's the second time I made that mistake. 4 kids, 3 dogs, and a cat. We don't need politics in our life. But, I stepped up against Schiff. And before that, I ran against Becerra, who was the attorney general at the time. It was my first ever race. I got about 1 million votes around the state of California. It was an incredible experience. But I step up because I love this country very much. My wife loves this country very much. We have lots of military in our family, and I can't stand back and watch what's happening. We all know what's happening with California. We see what's happening with the country. As I've been saying for many years, I believe we're in a battle of good versus evil in America. Communism is inherently evil. These people now, they're proud to call themselves socialists. That's code for communists. Or they call themselves progressives, which is also code for communists. In any event, so I stepped up. I'm announcing officially on the 8th, and we have a great team and we have a great campaign, and I'm blessed because I've been attorney for what we call Gavin 2020. And
Eric,
yeah.
I need to be clear for everybody out there that we like Eric, but on this broadcast, we don't officially endorse as the recall campaign any candidate. So I'm getting something on that. So we are behind Eric, but I want to be really clear here. Just as we've had other candidates on before, okay, for FPPC or anybody listening in, we are behind the right people in California, but officially for everybody out there, all right, this is not a quote official endorsement. It is simply we like Eric and he does a really good job, we think, in the next office. Okay, so I want to be really clear on that. Eric, talk about some of your positions.
But Mike, you sound like you should be a lawyer, man. That was you were skirting that the legal stuff pretty good, or dealing with it. Listen, we're in trouble in this state. I don't pull any punches. First of all, that amazing video we saw about with those restaurant owners beforehand. I represent restaurant owners. I have some great friends that busted their butts for years, risked everything, started a restaurant, and then I watched what they went through for the last year with how this tyrant up in this arrogant tyrant that I call the Ken doll up in Sacramento basically put them on their knees. And, I'm a supporter, for example, of this restaurant we have in Burbank, California here called Tin Horn Flats. That's a whole other story in and of itself. They've been fined somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000. Big issue for me. When I become Attorney General, I want to look at every fine levied by this state and by these counties on these small business owners. And to the extent that the fines are still hanging over their heads, I want to look at every one and see about rescinding those fines. And the same thing for folks who've already paid them. I want to look into them, and to the extent we can, I want to repay them back those fines. I'm a big
what about?
I'm a big supporter of the law, obviously, but I don't support tyranny. We support the law. We don't support tyranny. To my knowledge, none of us ever saw the so-called science or data that they used to force all those businesses down, killed so many businesses. That's a big issue for me. Other things, I will do whatever I can to ban critical race theory from our schools in California. I know a good deal about it. About 4 years ago, I brought what is possibly the first lawsuit. It's certainly the first one in California, might have been the first one in the country, representing a great group of citizens up there in Santa Barbara called Fair Education Santa Barbara, sued the Santa Barbara Unified School District and one of these outfits that was in there just indoctrinating the kids with this terrible stuff. They weren't calling it critical race theory then. We got all the materials. We published it for the entire county up there to see this stuff. And it would make your head spin. And this is what they call critical race theory now. It's in schools all around the country, all around the state. They teach kids America's bad. They teach kids that white people are the reason for all problems that ever befell the world, that all white people are racist. They teach kids that all people of color are victims. Socialism, they teach, is good. Faith, they say, is bad. I had one parent contact me, because I get contacted by parents from around the country, contacted me about 2 weeks ago, said that her 14-year-old daughter was in class and the teacher taught the class that day that Christianity is a myth. This is what's going on around the country. It is dividing the races. It is destroying the next generation of kids. It's already done a number for the last 20 years, frankly, on what we're seeing now in the country. It's got to be stopped. The Montana Attorney General, for example, just this past week, outlawed critical race theory in the schools. I want to do whatever I can to get that out of our schools. I'm a big supporter of law enforcement. As I've said, and as we said in the release we issued the other day, I believe this is a leaderless state. Leaders can't be politically correct. These quote unquote leaders in this state are gutless. In the last, have you heard any one of them step up and say they support law enforcement? I mean, it's an outrage, especially in the last year where our brave men and women of law enforcement have been under attack left, right, and center. The Attorney General position is the chief legal officer of the state and the chief law enforcement officer of the state. So we handle all the litigation and caseload relating to, everything from, fraud, property rights, contract rights, and we of course oversee all of what's going on with the criminal section and with law enforcement. I want to stop, to the extent I can, this emptying of our prisons. It's outrageous. The people in control of the state have created what I call a criminal's paradise. I want to do what I can to take legal action to repeal what is known as Proposition 47. I'm sure a lot of you know what it's about. I don't have that much time today. I know Mike and Orrin have other things they need to do today, or talk about today. But Proposition 47 was sold to the voters of California. We were all lied to. It was sold to us as the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. That's what they called it. So people, we go to the polls. Many of us just see what these initiatives are for the first time when we're at the polls. Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, of course, we want safe neighborhoods and schools. Yes. What has it done? It's led to an explosion in crime in this state, an explosion. Now you can go into any store, anywhere, want to steal up to $950, you'll never get caught. Most you get is a misdemeanor. And
Eric, I make the claim that the Prop 47 is the root of the weed that has led to the explosion in our homeless population in our state.
I agree with you, Orrin. That's a big part of it. It led to emptying of prisons, people who couldn't otherwise take care of themselves. It also completely took away incentives for people with drug problems to get drug rehab. Back in the day, if somebody was facing a felony or certain kinds of felonies, they could make a deal where they could go to rehab if they had drug problems and lessen their sentence. But that was all thrown out with this Proposition 47. And yes, it's led to, or helped lead to, the explosion in homelessness. So it's a big issue for me. And my way of dealing with it, frankly, I've not heard anybody else deal with it. As an attorney, we have something we call fraudulent inducement. If, for example, you enter into a contract because the other contracting party told you that you were going to get all this stuff, and it turns out the other contracting party totally lied to you, then you can sue to get out of the contract based on the fact that you were induced based on fraud, misrepresentations to enter that contract. That's exactly what happened to the voters of California when we voted on Proposition 47, because it was a complete bill of goods. This is when Kamala Harris was the Attorney General. It's the Attorney General that comes up with the name, the ballot title summary, called it the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, then had a paragraph about how they're going to make the neighborhoods and schools safe. It was all lies. I want to do whatever I can to get that repealed based on fraudulent inducement and whatever other tools I have. So, you know, I could go on and on. There's a lot of stuff that that I want to do. I want to work with other states' attorney generals to prevent our daughters from having to play in sports with people who are born genetically male. Um, you know, it should be common sense. For some reason, it's not common sense anymore. It's a matter of common sense. It's a matter of fairness. It's a matter of safety. I want that stuff. I don't want our daughters in sports with genetically born males. Got all kinds of other stuff, but I think you could hear I'm not your typical politician, and I'm not shy about saying the things that I talk about. I've got a lot of other positions, and you'll hear about them as we go along. But
Well, I got a question here for Orrin, and this is a personal question, Orrin, not as the recall. Okay, let's be clear here. But Orrin, as a retired police officer, I mean, you were a sergeant in charge of a crew of police officers, correct?
Yeah, for 25 years.
So I want your personal opinion on this, all right? How do you really think a police officer or sheriff's officer feels? I mean, and the straight answer here, in Los Angeles, or how do you feel when, you know, people you put in jail or you don't get the backing of our legal system? I mean, I've never been a police officer, but I can't imagine some of the things you've seen. And then to hear, I mean, I'm trying to, I've seen a lot of things happen to people. I'm trying to get my arms around how you feel about that with what's going on now. If you were still in the force, and how some of your, I mean,
It's incredibly demoralizing what's going on in our society today. You have groups, you have this governor that are undermining the authority of our police departments and the people in uniform. You have people openly calling for the defunding of police. You have this governor releasing prisoners on a wholesale level from prison. He's released over 20,000 prisoners over this last year. Some of them have gone out to commit horrific crimes. There was one inmate who was released from state prison early. He went home to his family in San Joaquin County, unexpected, unannounced, and tortured and killed his 2-month-old infant. When I hear of things like that could have been prevented, that should have never taken place because of the ill-conceived policies of this governor and what he's doing to our state, it just infuriates me. And it's incredibly disheartening to see our state fall into squalor. This governor has signed laws like SB 145, crafted by Senator Weiner out of San Francisco, which basically eliminated some sex offenses as a crime. It reduced the requirement for some certain sex offenders to register as a sex offender, and it lowered the age of being a victim of certain sex crimes to 10, as long as the age difference between the perpetrator and the victim was less than 10 years old. Okay, so it just it's incredibly disheartening, demoralizing, and we have to take a stand here and now. We're, like Eric said, we are in a true battle between good and evil, and we need all the help we can get to maintain the upper hand and to win this fight, because we have to win this fight. Failure is not an option.
Exactly. We're done playing games. This state, we've had a whole political class playing games with all of us for years and years. I get in this race because I'm done with watching the games be played. And as Orrin just said, we can't. There's no more playing games. We're basically, we've seen enough. We got to get our hands wrapped around the state. We got to get it back.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to note, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I watched Boston Legal a long time ago, right? That what we talk a lot about are civil and economic things that have happened to the state of California. a civil suit against where he shouldn't have done something for an election. Not downplaying that. Eric's been involved in that. The economic impact it's had on people that they may or may not recover from. But Orrin, I know you've been a big proponent on the show, having some of the victims of crimes on here. I want to make it really clear, and I probably don't spend enough time on this, talking about it, because it's a subject we assume that's being taken care of, but let's be really clear here. If a physical crime, a criminal, not a civil penalty, a bodily injury happens to somebody, including loss of their life, they're not going to recover from that. We can elect any damn person for governor we want. It's not going to bring that life back. And the fact that we in California release people who are violent from prisons and don't put people that are violent in prisons, violent people back into prisons, let's be clear, there's no going back when someone is bodily hurt like that. And, we talk a lot, we make a lot of fun of Gavin, and so we should, because some of this is civil. And maybe I have it mixed up, Eric, but I think I got it right. But when it comes to criminal law, okay, our state is eroding away at our rights as citizens just to live friggin' safe.
Mike, so much of this, and I know you know it, I know Orrin knows it, I know so many of your people watching know this. So much of this is common sense. If you empty our prisons of hardened criminals before their time is up, if you completely disrespect our brave men and women of law enforcement, if you defund law enforcement, if you pass these statutes and these bills along the lines of, for example, Proposition 47 and AB 109 and all kinds of others, we know what's going to happen. Crime is going to go through the roof, and chaos will abound, and everybody's safety everybody will be put in danger. And that's exactly what's happening. And yet, these jokers really that are in charge of this state keep taking these positions, making it worse and worse, allowing crime to rise. They're all supported. They've got the wind behind their backs by so much of the mainstream media. And it's time to change the narrative. And we're going to have to come in there with a sledgehammer, if necessary, and change the narrative and stop and reverse this entire trend. Right now, we have an attorney general that Newsom appointed recently to replace Javier Becerra, who went off to Biden's cabinet. And this present attorney general is just like Becerra was. He's just like this deviant George Gascon is. They all believe in what's called reimagining policing. Reimagining policing is code for defunding law enforcement, emptying the prisons, and passing more and more of these laws that turn this state into a term I use more and more, a criminal's paradise. We've got to stop it. We've got to reverse it all. And what you guys did with all your incredible volunteers, with this incredible recall movement, sent a shot across the bow in the state of California and the entire nation and the world, frankly, that the people of California, notwithstanding what we see on TV and notwithstanding what we see these polished politicians saying, the people of California of all political persuasions are getting pissed off, and we're done with it. And so, that's the story. I'll say a couple other things because Mike, you alluded to it. I'm a party with the Election Integrity Project and a couple other former congressional people, suing various state officials to find out what happened in the last election. We want to get to the bottom of so many things. It's not trying to reverse the results or anything like that. But I will tell you something, election integrity in this state and in this country is of paramount importance to me. I'll tell you, if and when I become Attorney General, I want to review this entire system, soup to nuts. Computers, universal mail-in voting, how to check signature verification, et cetera, et cetera. I'll do whatever I can to fight, to get, to force and to require people to show ID when they vote.
You know what, Eric, I think that a simplest solution for voter ID would be a simple thumbprint on the ballots. And for those poor, unfortunate souls who have no thumb, then we come up with another solution for them and their identity. But in reality, I mean, mail-in ballot or in person, boom, right there, thumbs up, put a thumbprint on that thing.
Makes a lot of sense.
Scan them, put them in, and we already have the database exists. We can scan a thumbprint within a matter of a millisecond, and you have one person, one vote, case closed.
Incredible idea. And the question becomes, why would anybody oppose that, right? And I think a lot of us have, thoughts on why we are facing an entire political structure in this state at the moment before we get them thrown out that would oppose something like that. Wonder why.
I want to understand.
You know what? You put a thumbprint on something, and that takes all of the question out of the election process. It would reestablish the confidence in the people, in the voting process, and there would be no question in the results in the end, because you maintain that thumbprint and that vote, and bada bing, bada boom, it's done, and forever, sealed.
I want to also tell everybody out there, as you go through your research and do your reading this week, I want you to look at a couple social experiments. They're called Minneapolis and Portland. And I do a lot of reading for those of you that don't know. And you don't see it reported on the TV news. And I realize most people out there, not those in the feed, but those out there maybe on Facebook, you get a lot of your news visually. Read this week what's happening in Minneapolis and Portland. Seriously, the mayor of Portland, who's pretty liberal, is starting to go, really? We've totally lost control. Minneapolis, where the tragedy happened of George Floyd, let's cut through it, that was a tragedy, has literally become a war zone because the police can't take control of it to bring order for even peaceful protest. This is what California, frankly, is going to become. And Orrin, I have a trivia question for you, because you know this, before we end this segment with Eric here. About how many prisoners today in California prisons?
115,000.
Okay. Now, I want everybody out there to fact check me, because I might have read it wrong this week. Out of, I believe, 115,000 prisoners in jail, I heard that about 224, God bless their souls, died of COVID. And I could be wrong, but I think that may be the right number. Now, because of that's one of the reasons that they're releasing prisoners from jail to make safer prisons. COVID, that's a lower percentage dying in prison than the general population, but they're releasing 72,000 prisoners, or about half, or whatever that percentage is of the population that you named, Orrin, probably about 65%, doing it in my head, from prison to make safer prisons. What the hell happened to safer streets? I didn't know you went to prison to be safe. I thought you were put in prison because you weren't safe. So
I would like to have an entire discussion about Prop 47, Prop 57, and AB 109, and
let's do it.
How that is the root cause of the evils that we're facing in our society right now, with the homelessness and so forth. And this governor has just perpetuated this problem even further by exacerbating it with more inmates being released out into public. So the 76,000 inmates that they're talking about releasing now, they're talking about cutting their good time in half, and then cutting that in half again. Okay, so this is an early release. But what people don't know is that this governor has gone out and he's dismantled the death chamber. He's rehoused all of the inmates that were on death row into general housing throughout the state. They're no longer on death row, so we don't have death row inmates anymore. And he's eliminating life without parole sentencing. So with his policies, somebody as evil as Charles Ng would be eligible for release, who should never walk among us again. These are broken human beings. They're broken souls. And the reason they were put in prison and given a life sentence or given a death sentence or given a life without parole means that society has come together, and we've determined that these people have committed heinous crimes that should never, ever, ever be given the chance to walk among us in society again. Period. Yep. They need to be culled from the herd. Yep. And the prison systems were that mechanism for doing that. And this governor is overriding that mechanism, and he's making it possible for these people to be set free and unleashed on society again. Now, out of that 76,000 inmates that he's talking about releasing in the near future, cutting their time in half, 20,000 of them have committed crimes that have been considered so heinous that they were given life without parole sentences. Life without parole, or multiple life sentences without parole. But this governor is making it possible. He's giving them hope. He's giving them light at the end of the tunnel to possibly be released. But he's light on crime. He's bad for business, and he's bad for California, and he needs to go away. We need a strong governor in office who's going to change this direction and give California, the course correction that it needs. We need a strong attorney general. We need a strong secretary of state. Those three offices must be filled by people that have our best interest in mind and in heart. And I think that we have some very good prospects coming forward. Not to mention present company. And just to give the caveat for the people that are listening in, Mike and I and Robin we are chairmen. We are on the board of a primarily formed committee that is to recall the governor, Gavin Newsom. And by law, we cannot endorse or support a candidate on this venue, but we can in our personal and private lives. So there's a little blurring of the lines as far as this broadcast goes, endorsing somebody for office. And I understand you're going to run for office for Attorney General, Eric, and God bless you for that, because we do need somebody in that office. But on other venues, Mike and I and Robin will be able to give our full endorsement and support for these people that are so important in our future.
But as we always have, we will expose you to knowledge. And it's our job to expose you to.
And I think Eric had something to follow up with that, Mike.
And then I know you guys have other things, and I really appreciate the time today, guys, and everything. You were talking about Portland. Let me give you a good example. We all know Portland's been a complete disaster zone, at least for the last year. They had one point there where I think it was at least 4 months straight of rioting or something there. Let's talk about the reason for it. They have a district attorney up there, very much like this guy, George Gascon. He refuses to prosecute. These people have been attacking law enforcement. They've been destroying businesses. They've been setting fires. They've been setting looting. They've been burning down courthouses. It is anarchy up there. It's these Antifa crazies, frankly. I say this publicly all the time. I have a radio show. I mean, Antifas are American domestic terrorists. But what happens is when you have a DA like this guy we have in LA County here, George Gascon, who won't prosecute, they bring these people in for these heinous attacks. The DA says, in the interest of justice, I'm not prosecuting. I'm not setting any bail. They let the people right back out. Some of these people have been brought in multiple times. What happens is when you have a law enforcement system like that doesn't respect the law, that treats criminals better than they treat victims, all it does is it encourages more crime. Again, it's common sense. And we have to change that complete rubric and way of thinking in this state of California before this criminal's paradise gets even worse and worse.
But Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. Antifa is nothing but an idea. It's just a thought. It's an idea. But we are being labeled as domestic terrorists.
Well, you know, I could go on and on about that, Warren. You don't want to hear, but I'll just say briefly, there are absolutely domestic enemies in this country. And what's remarkable right now is that the evil ones are being treated by our government in California and in DC as if they are good, upstanding Americans, and conservatives who believe in freedom and liberty and the law. We're being treated as if we're the domestic enemies. It's a bad problem. It's another reason why I jumped in this race. We got to get back our state. We got to get back our country.
And I think that in the near future, Mike and Robin and I are going to be launching another application or another town hall, and where we can speak more openly, so to speak.
And you may see our make a personal appearance Tuesday in Burbank. It's a personal appearance, and you will find us personally at somewhere in Burbank at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. You might want to be there at 10. And if you want more information, you know how to find us. Eric, thank you very much for being on there. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you.
Eric, God bless. Thank you, my friend.
God bless you all, and God bless this incredible country of America.
Absolutely.
So a couple things here before we end the show tonight. All right. Oren, do you want to add anything here?
Not right now. I think that, we're moving forward. We're steaming ahead and getting things done. There were people asking me about merchandise, Olivia. We're trying to iron out some wrinkles with that, and there will be some stuff that's going to be available soon.
We just got in thousands of trifolds, no charge to hand out. The objective is to spread the word. Keep spreading the word. Look, as Oren said earlier, and by the way, there aren't going to be 2 million people at a service union out there canvassing. I find that very incredible. I can't even get people at a service union a lot of times to give me a hot dog. So getting them go door to door is going to be quite amazing. And if they do, God bless them, because it's really up to our First Amendment rights to state our case. And I think our case is much stronger. The reality is, the question was also asked as we wrapped up the show. No signature withdrawals of any significance. I wouldn't even worry about it. But here's what I would worry about. What I would worry about is this. The time of the election may come sooner than later. They're going to do everything that they can to try to turn back us sooner than later. A sense of urgency has never been greater. So we have to keep spreading the word. Please get more people to tune into our call. Please have more and more people call into our radio show. Let the people hear the voice. That's 1-800-222-5222 on Friday nights at the French Laundry. That's 1-800-222-5222, because express yourself. The more you express yourself, the more the press will hear, the more the people of California will hear, and the more we can do to keep raising whatever funds we have, the more we keep this movement on the air. And before we get off, I want to thank a special group in Santa Clarita if you're watching tonight, because I was there Sunday and they gave me a special hat. A lot of people got Gavin your fired hats, but mine at the top. This is for you, Gavin, as we sign off tonight. This recall is happening, whether you like it or not. And we'll see you Friday nights at the French Laundry. Good night, everybody.